I started reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang yesterday, and I plan to update you because that's what I like to do in these vlogs, but it seems to have captured me quite a bit, so I sat there and over the course of the day got through 230 pages. I do have other things on at the moment, otherwise I think I could have easily sat and read that entire book. The Poppy War so far has had scenes that have reminded me of Harry Potter, and so I was quite glad for that nostalgia. And then there have been moments where I've likened it to The Name of the Wind and Mulan. I get similar feelings that I did when I was a child reading Harry Potter for the first time. And yes, I suppose there is something quite nostalgic in that feeling, and I have been analysing that myself and thinking, am I enjoying this book for what it is, or is it purely nostalgia? Admittedly, I have had a few criticisms about this book. Namely, there are times when the prose just airs too close to the purple for me, and whilst I can entertain purple prose sometimes, for the book we have here, I don't really think it fits. My plans are to finish this book tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and then go straight into reading The Eye of the North by Sinead O'Hart. I'm also quite aware that I started reading The Doll Factory last month, and I want to finish that, but I've decided to push that back until I've got through a few more books on my TBR, because as well as the Book Junkie Trials, I have my own coordinated TBR to be getting on with. This mage has made it through Orc Grove, and frankly, all I ended up with was a bad haircut. So I have finished reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and honestly, I don't know how to feel about this book. I've been reminded of Mortal Kombat and Shaman King, and all these things from my youth have filled me with this nostalgia for this book. And personally, I would actually say, for the most part, I've enjoyed this book. I found it a very quick read, and I have liked it. I will go back and reread it and hopefully end up getting on with the characters more than I have this time. I even thought about taking notes on this book, and for the first time ever, I thought about actually annotating a book and sticking tabs in here for all the parts that have reminded me of something else, or something to do with the history or the characters. And I do think that the writer has got a huge world here. I just wish that it had been revealed to us more and that there had been more space for it. So basically what I'm saying is, it's been a well-edited book. I got on with it, but it needed more. It's definitely got its gruesome, gory parts, and the author isn't afraid of actually showing the horrors of war and what that they can do to characters, but towards the end I do think that she lost the characterization in favour of having these big events. Now, whilst I say that, I am going to be seeking out the sequels. I don't know how many there are going to be. I know there's definitely one, is it called The Dragon Republic, coming out in August, and I want to get my hands on that, and maybe parts of this will start to make more sense in the grand scheme of things. It's a completely different sensation this time round than when I finished reading Black Leopard, Red Wolf, because although I found issues with this book, I still want to go on and reread the series, and I actually could see this becoming a favourite series of mine. I think that that's one of the good things about this book, is the fact that although I can see its faults and its problems, for me as a reader, I'm still invested enough that I could go on and reread and possibly see this as a favourite series. I think it was held to much more esteem last year, which gave people a false impression as to the narrative they were going to receive. Right, now I'm moving on to The Old Pirate Cove, and for this I will be reading The Eye of the North by Sinead O'Hart. I'm hoping to get the majority of this read today and hopefully finish it before Wednesday, but we'll see. It's a middle grade book, it's relatively short. This book ended at sea, so it just seems apt that we're off to this piratey cove, because the orcs haven't had enough at me. I gotta go and see Blackbeard about a goose. Whilst in the old pirate cove, some scallywag stole the device I use in which to record all of my exploits. And thus, after he walked the plank and was promptly eaten by a crocodile, I had to wait for the said reptile's digestive system to work so as I could properly record my tale. Alas, alack, and all that. My time in the old Pirate Cove has not been a good one. I record this on a Saturday, days after I completed The Eye of the North by Sinead O'Hart. This was a terrible book indeed. Had I not been participating in the Book Junkie Trials, then I would have thrown this book overboard. We have the tale of Emmeline, whose parents are supposedly dead, and she is being sent off to France on a boat, for no other reason than apparently her parents want her to go to France on a boat. Before dying, they had this wish to send Emmeline to France to this certain Madame Blancheflower. I can't flaming remember. And so she goes on this boat, and she meets a young man called Thing. But whilst on this boat, strange men appear, and suddenly Emmeline is kidnapped by this evil man whose name is on the back cover, Dr. Bauer, but you don't actually find his name out until about 50 pages after he has been introduced. Then begins a nonsensical quest for Thing to find Emmeline, for Emmeline to stop Dr. Bauer releasing whatever he wants to release from under the ice. And none of it made a lick of sense. Because this book begins with this whimsical tone that people quite like to try and emulate in children's books. It works in Alice in Wonderland, in Peter Pan. However, those books don't have so many characters that by the time you're getting towards the end of the book, you're beginning to question, was this just a book that wasn't plotted beforehand and the writer just threw things in there until she had a certain amount of words and thought, right, that's it, I'm sending it off. If this book were my book, or I were to edit this book, I would ask that the writer remove several of her characters that don't do anything at some point, and also choose whether she wants to tell a magical story or an adventure story, because whilst the two can go together, it's not working here. We're getting this story where you have airships and this travel by boat and gunshots and this weird sort of James Bond-esque run across the country with these kids. And then we're getting this other tale of magic and trying to emulate Northern Lights by Philip Pullman in some way. And this book really just didn't do it for me. It has been near a week since I completed my quest. However, I did not update this video portion. So firstly, after I had such a perilous, horrible time in the old Pirate Grove, I decided to endeavour to glimmer, a place that is beauteous to me. I discovered Charmcaster by Sebastien de Castell, a book in which a young man called Callan is travelling across the world with his squirrel cat Rycus and his Argosy friend Ferius. This time they are also on a quest. Frankly, it was quite the brilliant update to the series, and I'm really enjoying these books. Sebastien de Castell clearly has definition between the books he has for adult readers and the books that he has for young adult readers. simply because I feel like the adult ones go more in depth into things. They're a lot bigger. They can traverse off into various areas. But the Spellslinger books stick with one story in a different place, and they expand upon the world, but it's never feels forced, and it never feels as though we're trying to fill up pages here. I enjoyed how the relationships in this book grew. I didn't expect the ending that we got, but it intrigues me enough to see where this series is going to go. And it felt like a brilliant midpoint to a series, a turn in the tale for the final 3 books. After having such a brilliant time in Glimmer, I had to go to the Draconic Isle. I've always imagined that dragons are fierce and flighty and brilliant. Maybe I have been ruined by Robin Hobb's dragons, or the dragons in Harry Potter even. I don't actually see that many dragons in fiction. I even like Patrick Rothfuss's take on dragons. But I didn't like these dragons. I read Seraphina by Rachel Hartman, and this is the first time that I've thought dragons are boring. And I mean boring. I should have known there was a problem when I saw that this was blurbed by Christopher Paolini. I never liked his books. There's a whole list of reasons why I don't like his books, and Seraphina bored me to tears. I was just sat there the entire time reading, almost getting one of those headaches I used to get in physics, because I was so bored. I didn't care about any of the characters, for one thing. On the back, it says Seraphina has a secret. As soon as they mentioned a certain aspect in a certain species, I figured out exactly what Seraphina's secret was. Especially when you consider the idea that this is 2 groups of people at war with each other after this treaty and everything. It's like, yeah, I know what you're going to tell me in this story. And Lord, yeah, I knew what was going to be told to me in this story, in a predictable, boring bit of nonsense. And I tell you, I was happy to leave the Draconic Isle and just set off on my quest to find the Holy Grail, if only to wake myself up a bit. Finally, however, I moved on to Skysong by Abi Elphinstone. In my quest for the Holy Grail, I know a few people have gone out there and they're all after Stardust, but I'm one of those people who've read Stardust, and whilst I would like to read it again, I like to save that for a winter read. Personally, I think that book's more suited to Christmas. Indeed, the book that I ended up reading for my Bookie Grail was also more suited for Christmas, because Skysong is set in another frozen north. This is the second book of the Book Junkie Trials that I have read that has featured a frozen north, and Abi Elphinstone did it better. This book follows the characters of Esker and Flint. Esker has been trapped by the Ice Queen in a cursed music box. She has no memories of how she got there, and she has no memories at all of who she is apart from her name. She is rescued by a young inventor named Flint, who is somewhat maligned by his brother and his tribe because he prefers to invent things, and he is sticking with the magic that they have, since the Ice Queen took over, decided is actually a bad thing. We are in a world where parents have been taken from their children. We have orphans, and this is a world that was being ruled by children as they sought to get their parents back. Enter Esker, who is on a quest to travel across this frozen north to unite the tribes and discover the legendary Skysong, which will hopefully rid their land of the Ice Queen. This book is phenomenal. It uses fairy tale elements exceptionally well. I think that the relationship and the friendship between Flint and Esker was exceptionally well done. I think that it's just a brilliant read for the middle grade reader. Now that I have completed the Mage quest portion of the Book Junkie Trials, I am going to go off and explore different aisles and different quest points of other people. I haven't really been looking in the Discord group. I haven't been on Twitter and doing it that way and doing it all as part of the community, because you know what? I've never been a good one with communities, have I really? If we're being quite honest. I'm not the best when it comes to chatting to people. If you're doing the Book Junkie Trials, if you are participating and you're doing a much better job than I am, then feel free to get in touch with me. If you've read any of these books and would like to discuss them, then do so in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.